here.
Without knowing KAB, could do something and have B fooled into thinking it was from A. And that's what we need for integrity authentication. You need to look at these problems logically. Now, you don't need to understand how the algorithms work, but you need to follow the logic and apply those assumptions to see why we provide these services. Any questions? Okay, in the back. User changed the ciphertext. The ciphertext was intercepted. Let's say the ciphertext was a 1 megabyte file. The plaintext was a 1 megabyte file. It was encrypted and produces a 1 megabyte of ciphertext. When you intercept it, it looks like 1 megabyte of random bits. A good encryption algorithm will take the plaintext and produce random looking output. So the attacker sees 1 megabyte of random bits. They don't know what it means. They can't get the plaintext, but they can modify it. Just change some of the bits. So you can modify the ciphertext. Okay, with the first one, I don't have it here, we can modify the ciphertext, but the point was that B detected it was modified. So the modification attack, and the same with the masquerade attack, easy to do, easy to try from the attacker's perspective. Hard to stop them from trying. They can try, but it's possible for B to detect that they did it. The detection acts as a security mechanism. Since we detect that they modified it, then we know don't trust this message. Right, so we can modify anything. You send a message to someone, I intercept before it gets to them, I can change it, but the receiver will detect that I've changed it, and therefore don't trust that message, and that forms a security service. Any other questions before we look at some other techniques? Still on authentication. Try to stay with us through this lecture because these are the key principles, and I see some tired faces. But these are the key building blocks of what we use many of the other, how we use many of the other IT mechanisms, IT security mechanisms. Let's return to the slides briefly. Say too much about the things that we've missed. So some topics in this cryptographic slides we'll skip over. We've talked about attacks, brute force attacks. We've talked about the speeds yesterday. The assumptions about what the attacker knows we've covered. We said the ciphers operate on small blocks, 64 bits, 128 bits, they encrypt a block at a time. The ways to take a large file, split it into blocks, encrypt the blocks, and combine them back together to get the final encrypted file. They have different methods. They're called modes of operation. We will not cover them, but if you use some of the software and some know that there are different modes of operation. And the list of common ones you'll see listed here. CCP, CCP, and there are others. Ways to deal with a large file and how to break it into blocks, encrypt the blocks, and join them together. So that we will not look into in this course. There are also stream ciphers, small ciphers using encrypt 64 bits or 28 bits at a time. Stream ciphers usually encrypt a byte or even a bit at a time. They use different algorithms. But we will not look at them either today. Let's keep moving. RC4 was a popular stream cipher used in Wi-Fi, but it has flaws in it. So we've looked at using encryption to provide confidentiality, make sure no one can see our message. And we've just seen some cases of using encryption to provide authentication and data integrity. That is, no one can modify our message without being detected, or no one can send us a fake message without being detected. There are other ways to provide authentication, not just with symmetric encryption. There are different ways for providing authentication. So just to recap, when the receiver receives a message, they would like to verify that the contents of the message haven't been modified along the way. So make sure nothing's been changed, and that the source of the message is who they claim to be. No one's performing a masquerade attack, or so we can authenticate the source, or the general aims. There are different ways to do that. We saw some cases using symmetric key encryption to do this, provide this authentication service. There are other approaches that use message authentication codes, MACs, use hash functions and symmetric key encryption, and public key encryption. And we're just going to look at one more of them, which is using the last one, public key encryption. And it leads us to an important concept called digital signatures. Right, so we're not going to look at message authentication codes. They're available. We will need to look at hash functions to understand digital signatures, but just the basic concepts. But so what we'll do for the rest, how long we've got left, not long, we'll introduce the basic concepts of public key encryption. And then we'll go direct to public key encryption, and that will be enough for today. So let's jump through to public key encryption. Encrypt with a shared secret key, like KAB. Decrypt with the same key. Right, that was symmetric key encryption. The keys are the same on both sides. The other approach, what's the opposite of symmetric key encryption? What's the opposite of symmetry? Asymmetry. Asymmetric encryption, encrypt with one key, decrypt with a different key. So they're different on both sides. And the other name for asymmetric key encryption is public key encryption. Right, so they have different names. Symmetric key encryption was used from maybe 2,000 years ago up until maybe the 1950s and 1960s, and still used today. But in the 1970s, maybe, around that time, people discovered a new approach, or designed a new approach called asymmetric key encryption or public key encryption. And different people had a large influence on that. Diffie and Hellman. We'll see there's an important algorithm, the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, developed an important public key encryption algorithm, or public key algorithm. And another one by Rebesh, Shamir, and Edelman developed what's called RSA. RSA is a public key encryption algorithm. So these are some important algorithms that we'll see used in practice later in the course. So today let's just talk about the concept. Symmetric key encryption algorithms use the same key for encryption and decryption. Asymmetric algorithms use one key for encryption and a different but related key for decryption. In symmetric key encryption, if I ask you to choose a secret key, how would you choose that secret key? Guess first. Let's be a little bit more scientific about it, or a little bit more precise. How do you think you should choose your secret key? Guessing? All right. And somehow tell me that value. Maybe give it to me on a USB, a flash drive, or some other mechanism, and then I can decrypt what you sent me. That's symmetric key encryption. The keys are normally random. In asymmetric key encryption, we have two keys. Encrypt with one, decrypt with the other, but they're not random. We actually use an algorithm to generate the keys. So there's a key generation process. Because the two keys must be related in some way. And the general way that we use algorithms is we encrypt with one key and decrypt with the other. One of the keys we call a public key because anyone can know it, even the attacker. The other key will be a private key because only one person will know that, the person who it belongs to. No one else can know it. So we'll encrypt with one key and decrypt with the other, where one of them can be publicly known, the other must be secret or private. So we talk about a key pair, a public-private key pair. And it must be hard for the attacker, given the algorithm for the ciphertext and one of the keys, to derive the other key, or the plaintext. So let's maybe describe first the keys. So now we'll talk about a key pair, a public-private key pair. And instead of using K to represent the keys, often we'll use PU and PR to identify the key as a public key or a private key. So it's still a key, but we're using different notation here. And we'll talk about every user in the system has their own pair of keys. User A, for example, has a pair of related keys, PUA and PRA. And every other user would have their own key pair. And if you have your key pair, the private key you must not tell anyone. It must be private to you only. The public key you can tell everyone. By the name, it's public. So the public key is available to anyone. The private key is secret, only known by one person, the owner of that key. And everyone has their own key pair. And in general, the keys are used, one is used to encrypt, the other to decrypt, and the order in which we use them, one provides a confidentiality service or secrecy, and one provides authentication. Let's see those two in use. Here we want to provide confidentiality. A is on the left, B is on the right. A wants to send a secret message to B. Every user has their own key pair. User A has a key pair, PUA, PRA, and user B has its own key pair, PUB, PRB. So every user now we assume has a pair of keys to themselves, and users know other users' public key. That is, if I have a key pair, PU Steve, PR Steve, I can tell you what my PU Steve is. I can tell everyone what it is. I can write it on the board or send it in an email. It's public. But the private value, I must keep secret for myself. So in this case, we want to send a secret message from A to B. What we do is we encrypt, user A encrypts that secret message. Now we're using M for the message. We've already used P in the name of the key. So that message M, the plaintext, is encrypted, and we use the public key of B to decrypt. I want to send a message to B, I use the public key of B to encrypt that message. So the ciphertext is obtained by encrypting the message, the plaintext message, using the public key of B. We send the ciphertext to B, and decryption takes place using the other key, the key pair. And if the algorithms are designed correctly and considered secure, and there are algorithms that are considered that way, then no one else can discover the plaintext message. Why? That's we can discover the private key. Again, same with the secret key, no one can guess it. If we encrypt using the public key of B and send ciphertext, if someone intercepts the ciphertext, what can they do? Can they decrypt it? If you are malicious and intercept the ciphertext C, how do you decrypt that? How do you decrypt the ciphertext C? You know the ciphertext. You know the algorithm. We always assume you know the algorithm. So to decrypt the ciphertext C, you need the private key of B. Does the malicious user know the private key of B? No. By definition, the private key of B is only known by B. In other words, only B can decrypt, because only B has that key, and that provides confidentiality. We send the message to B. The only person in the world that can decrypt that, if the algorithm is secure, is the person that has the private key of B. By definition, that is B. Any questions on confidentiality with public key encryption? Who can send a message to B? Anyone can send a message to B, because they just need to use the public key of B. And that's public. The malicious user knows the public key of B. So they can create a message and send it to B, but no one can decrypt that message except for B. And the sender, of course, knows the message they created it. So anyone can send a message because the key is public, but that's okay. What we want to stop is that someone intercept the message and read it. And that's impossible if we have a secure algorithm and if we don't know the private key of B. So that's how we provide confidentiality with public key encryption. user has a key pair, PRA, PUA, similar with B. When A wants to send a message to B, we don't care who reads the message, we just want it to be sure from the receiver's perspective that it did come from A. So what we do, we take the message, we can encrypt that message using the private key of A as the key. We obtain ciphertext, we send the ciphertext to B, we decrypt using the corresponding public key. If it was encrypted with the private key of A, decrypt with the public key of A, and we get the message back. Can a malicious user intercept and see the message? Think about what would happen. If you're the malicious user, you obtain the ciphertext, can you see the message? Yes and no. Anyone else with a different answer? If we are a malicious user, we intercept C. To decrypt this, we need to know the public key of A. Do we know the public key of A? Public means everyone knows it. Yes, we do know it. So the malicious user does know the public key of A, therefore they can decrypt this. So this example, we're not trying to keep the message secret. I don't care if the malicious user sees the message. If I care about that, use the previous approach. This approach, I want to make sure that B can verify it came from A. Can a malicious user send a message to B pretending to be A? What do they need? I'm a malicious user, send a message to B pretending to be A. What B is going to do is they're going to decrypt with the public key of A. It will only successfully decrypt if the message was encrypted with the private key of A. Who has the private key of A? A does. The malicious user doesn't. And so this is a source we can provide. Stop someone sending a message to B pretending to be someone else. And that achieves that if we have a correct algorithm, because the message must have been encrypted with the private key of A, such that it was successfully decrypted with the public key of A. If I receive a message from A, or claiming to be from A, I will verify it by decrypting with the public key of A. If it wasn't encrypted with the private key of A, I would detect something's not wrong. If it was encrypted with the private key of A, it was successfully decrypted, and I know it came from A. This is authentication, proving that the message came from a particular source. So be careful. These two have different aims. Confidentiality, keep the message secret. Authentication, prove that the message came from A, but not keep the message secret. If you want both, you can join them, in fact. Try and get your head around the concepts of public key cryptography, and at least start to remember that there are pairs of keys. For confidentiality, encrypt with the destination's public key. So you encrypt with B's public key. Authentication, encrypt with the source's private key. Get the ordering correct. That'll start to make sense as we go through how we use these for digital signatures next week. So you don't have this, I'll just ask a few questions of you, or we'll check our knowledge of what we know so far about encryption. So state something up here, and when doing this we'll get some review of the terminology or the notation of used with encryption. So you have a sheet that lists a set of assumptions we're making, so that's what we want to arrive at. Let's go through some cases and try and answer what is known or what is assumed when something happens. So I'll show you what happens, and then we'll discuss what's the outcome. So the first case, let's say that X, so this is what happens at the start, X, some user X, or we call them X, they have some plaintext P1, they encrypt it, and they send the ciphertext C1, which is the output of the encryption, to Y. Right, so X sends a message to Y. So how was it? C1, the ciphertext, the first ciphertext obtained. The notation we use, E, is the function, the encrypt function. And it could be it could be DES, AES, there are many different algorithms here, but we say it's some encryption function. It takes two inputs, the plaintext, P, right, we'll see that there are different plaintexts as we go through, so P1, and it takes a key as input. What does KXY mean? What do you understand? So when I have the quiz, maybe an in-class quiz next lecture, or a Moodle quiz, what would KXY mean? How do you interpret that? It's a key, K for key, and the XY probably suggests that this is a shared secret key known by both X and Y. Right, so this is the notation we'll commonly use. So this suggests we're using symmetric key encryption. So I say the function E, the encrypt function, but we now know there are two types of encryption: symmetric key encryption, where both sides use the same key, and public key encryption, where we encrypt with one key and decrypt with another. We use different notation to identify secret keys, K, and later public and private keys, PU and PR, just so it's clear. So here we use symmetric key encryption. We send the ciphertext to Y. What happens? Well, let's consider, what if someone intercepts that ciphertext? Z, another user, intercepts the ciphertext, and they try to do this operation. What happens? What can we assume, or what do we know if they try to do that operation? They're trying to change the key. Well, not necessarily change the key, but you've noticed they use it manipulated. What's different here?
The operation to check of key.
Right, so E means encrypt, D means decrypt. So we intercepted, so now with Z, we intercepted the ciphertext C1, and I try to decrypt it. Alright, so maybe I'm trying to do an attack and discover the plaintext because it was confidential, I want to learn it. What happens when I try to decrypt it? What can we assume happens? What does Z know after we try this? Or what do they not know? They don't know. Right, so with this operation, what's the outcome of this operation? It's wrong, correct? That is, if something goes wrong, why does something go wrong? Because the key doesn't match with what was used for encryption. Okay, so that's correct. When Z tries to decrypt the ciphertext, note there's a different key used here. We try to decrypt the ciphertext using KXZ. Because the ciphertext was obtained by encrypting using KXY, then something will go wrong here when we decrypt. And we'll assume that A, Z cannot learn the plaintext P1, right? They will not get P1 as output. And the other thing we'll assume is that they will know that it's incorrect decryption, or the plaintext is not the original one. It will probably produce random output. And from that, so two things we assume happens here. Z does not learn P1, and Z knows that it doesn't have P1. Because the decryption didn't work. So it returns an error, or it returns something that doesn't make sense. And there are ways to ensure that will be the case. So why doesn't it work? Because the key used to encrypt and decrypt is different. Why did Z use C1 was sent, CR is received. We don't necessarily know if CR and C1 are the same. They may be, but maybe someone tried to modify them. Let's check. So what Y does is they try to decrypt the received ciphertext using KXY. They do that, and they get some plain text they recognise, maybe some English message. What do we know now? What does Y know? He knows that the key used is the correct key because we got recognisable plain text. We know the decryption worked. It didn't go wrong this time. So some things we know from Y's perspective. We know that we used the correct key because the decryption worked. We know that the output plain text is what X sent. Okay? And therefore the ciphertext received is what was sent. So the plain text we received is what X sent. It hasn't been modified along the way. If it was modified, it would decrypt. So because it does decrypt, we assume that the plain text received has not been modified. There's been no attack on it along the way. So we know two things, right? We know the plain text first. Actually, we obtained the real plain text. We know that the plain text is correct. It hasn't been modified. And assume now exactly the outcome. Something's gone wrong. If we get an unrecognisable plain text, that means that the decrypt did not work. Why can the decrypt not work? Well, the inputs were not matching what was used originally. Either the ciphertext was modified along the way, maybe an attacker tried to change the ciphertext between user X sending and user Y receiving. If the ciphertext is modified, then it will not decrypt if we use KXY. Or the message was encrypted using a key other than KXY. So if either of the two inputs are incorrect, then it will produce an unrecognisable plain text. Decrypted attack. So we can get that authentication if the attacker wants to modify something. We can decrypt that also. How do we use symmetric key encryption to provide confidentiality? No one can decrypt unless they have the key. And authentication. If someone tries to modify the message, the receiver will detect that modification. If someone tries to send us a message pretending to be X, if they don't have X key, then the receiver will detect something pretending to be X, not X. Questions on symmetric key encryption? We need to understand the basic assumptions so we can move on. No questions? We've spent a couple of lectures on it. Then let's move on to the newer part. What happens here? New plain text P2, new ciphertext C2. If I show you the equation at the top in a quiz, what can you tell me about what happened or what was used?
国道3号線通過回答はこちらです。
Don't be shy today. It's very cold, so there's no reason to sleep. What's PU? Public key. So the notation PUX, PU stands for public key. This tells us that the encryption algorithm, E, is different from the previous one. Here we're using public key encryption or asymmetric key encryption. We're using a different approach. So that's the first thing to recognize. We're using public key encryption algorithm. We're encrypting the plain text P2 with PUX and we get C2. So,
じゃあこれいきましょう。
extra question in the quiz, and I recognise your faces, so I remember your names, don't worry. Alright, so two options, yes or no. Does Y know P2? Hands up for yes. Does Y not know P2? Alright, we have a few people voting, good. Why does Y not know P2? What's your opinion? Why do they not know it? They know C2, what about P2? Anyone can help them? You voted no. Why do they not know P2? It was sent from X, yes. And it was encrypted by X. Can they decrypt it? Can Y decrypt C2? If they can decrypt it, then they'll find P2, correct? But you said they can't find P2. Now you've explained to me that they can. The question is, can Y decrypt C2? Well, with public key encryption, if C2 was obtained by encrypting using the public key of a user, then it can only be decrypted using the corresponding private key of that same user. C2 was obtained by encrypting using the public key of X. The only way to decrypt that is using the private key of X. PRX, we would know that. And the private key of X is known by who? Private key of X is known by X. Private means secret just to X. So Y does not know the private key of X. When Y receives C2, they cannot decrypt. Because they don't have the private key of X. So in this case, Y does not know P2. Some people voted for that, but didn't have the right reasoning for that. It's because to discover P2, you need to have the private key of X, and only X has that. So remember, with public key encryption, if it's encrypted with one key in a pair, say the public key, it can only be decrypted with the other key in the key pair, the private key of the same user. What if X receives C2? Do they know P2? X receives this. Do they know P2?
Yes.
Why?
Because X has the public key.
Because X has the private key of X, and P2 is encrypted with the public key of X. Whoever has the private key of X can decrypt. X has the private key of X, so they can decrypt all P2 in this case. So X knows P2, they receive all P2. So this provides confidentiality. The way to achieve confidentiality with public key encryption, if you want to send a secret message to someone, you encrypt using their public key. Let's say Z sent this message to X. Z encrypts the message using a public key of X, such that only X can decrypt. So X has the private key. So that's the role of public key encryption for confidentiality. It works, in most algorithms it works the same as if we use the keys in the opposite direction. If you encrypt with the private key of X, you can only decrypt with the public key of X. Sorry, what happens here? Someone encrypted P3 using the private key of X, and they obtained C3. What if Y receives C3? What does Y know? Do they know P3? This is logic. There's not much detail of the algorithm we'll go through. It's just some logic if you remember the rules. Why you're saying no? Why can't they know P3? What do they need to know P3? P3 was encrypted with a private key of X. To decrypt it, to decrypt the ciphertext, what do you need? You need the public key of X. The keys can only X. If you encrypt with one, you can only decrypt with the other. It was encrypted with a private key of X. So if you have the public key of X, you can decrypt. Who has the public key of X? Everyone. It's public. So Y receives C3, they can decrypt, and they can learn P3 in this case. So yes, they do know P3. There's no confidentiality here. The message is public, we can see what it is. What else do we know? If it successfully decrypts with PUX, what does Y know? And this is an important role of this public key encryption. What does Y know when it decrypts? They know the plain text and who sent it? Or who created it? It must have been created by X. Because if P3 was encrypted with the private key of X, and then we can successfully decrypt the ciphertext with the public key of X, then that implies that the only person who could have created that message is X, because the only person in the world that has the private key of X is X. So this is performing some form of authentication. When Y receives C3, they decrypt with the public key of X, they learn P3, but they also learn this message, P3, definitely came from X. No one else could have sent this message because no one else could have encrypted with the private key of X. So that's the role of public.
技術の人はなんかあるかった。
Some terminology, some notations, some concepts that we will use and see applied through the subsequent topics in the rest of the semester. So I've got quite a light introduction to security. Computer security covers many different topics, and because we only have one semester, I select just a subset of the topics that we can cover. So if you want to get more details about cryptography and the theory behind computer security, you won't get that in this course, but I do teach the security cryptography course as well on Monday morning, so feel free to join that if you want some more theory on computer security. Let's start by giving some definitions of what do we mean by computer security, and then introduce some different notation and terminology. So here's a definition of computer security. This comes from a handbook produced by NIST. NIST is a government standards organisation in the US, and they produce a lot of recommendations and standards about computing, including security, and they say computer security is the protection afforded to an automated information system like a computer system, in order to obtain the applicable objectives of preserving, so we have some objectives here as we go through, to obtain some objectives of preserving the integrity, availability and confidentiality of the information system resources. So a computer system, or generally information system, has set resources, data, hardware, software, and computer security is about trying to protect that information system such that we meet the objectives of preserving the integrity, availability and confidentiality. And those are three key concepts of computer security. Integrity is making sure that those resources are not modified in an inappropriate manner. For example, you have a file stored on your hard disk. To maintain the integrity of the file, you want to make sure that no one can modify that file without you knowing. Availability is making sure that those resources are available for your users. You're a company, you provide a network or a computer system for your users, and it's part of running a business. They need to access that computer system. That system needs to be available to the users. If, due to some security attack, it becomes unavailable, you can't access a website or a database server, then that's a problem. So that's what availability is about. Confidentiality, often we want to keep information secret. So we want to ensure that data is kept secret. That's what confidentiality is about. So those are three key objectives that you'll see come up in other definitions and other discussions of computer security. Preserve integrity, availability, and confidentiality. CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability, not the Central Intelligence Agency. So confidentiality a little bit more depth. Sometimes we think of it from two perspectives. We have the normal perspective of confidentiality is keeping things secret, keeping data secret. You have a file, only you should be able to access the contents of that file, so you may take some mechanism such that no one else can read the contents of the file, you keep it secret, confidentiality. Or you send an email to some destination, to a set of destinations, you only want those specific people to be able to read the contents of that confidentiality is about keeping your data secret, not letting unauthorized people access your data. Here we'll use privacy to mean keeping your actions secret. That is one thing that you may be aware of, what websites you access, keeping the set of websites that you access, not just the data you've downloaded, but the URLs you access, when, how often, keeping that information secret is one example of privacy. And often privacy and data confidentiality are two general confidentiality. So we need to look at, in this course, some techniques for providing confidentiality. We often want to provide that. How do we do that? Anyone know how to provide confidentiality?
タイヤセ
of
レク
data?
トがありますね。
You have a file, you don't want others to see the contents of the file. What do you do with that file? Password, you what? Put a password in the file? Lock the file? How do you lock the file? With a key or? Zip file, you're on the right track, you're using the right thing. What's the term or the mechanism that we often talk about to lock that file? And you probably heard of another one as well. Encryption. We would encrypt that file. Or encrypt the data inside the file. And yes, using software like Zip often has an option to allow you to encrypt the contents, but there are other ways as well. Encryption takes the data, transforms that data, usually using some secret key like password, and transforms the data such that once you have that transformed version, you can only get back to the original data if you have the correct key. You can only decrypt if you have the key. So if you don't have the key, you cannot decrypt. And unauthorized people, assuming they don't have the key, cannot access the data. So we'll talk a lot about encryption and how we provide data confidentiality with encryption. What about privacy? What are the mechanisms you could use to stop people knowing what websites you access, how often you access them, what times of day you access them? Delete the history. Your web browser keeps a record of the web sites, the URLs that you access. So if someone accesses your computer, they can obtain that information. What else? So that's only if people access your computer. But when you access websites, the packets that are being sent between your computer and the web server are going via many intermediate devices, and they may keep a record of which websites you're accessing. Your ISP, Internet Service Provider, may record what websites you're accessing, when. So we need to look at other ways. How can we hide that information from other users? And we'll talk about, towards the end of the semester, we'll look at different aspects of web security, virtual private networks, and related techniques for privacy. Integrity is about data integrity, making sure that the data is only changed in an authorized manner. For example, like I said before, you have a file stored on your server, and if someone can access the server and modify the file without you knowing, then our data integrity has failed. We want to prevent that. We don't want changes to happen without or in an unauthorized way. And system integrity is not so much related to the data, the files we store, but the computer system, the hardware and software, make sure it performs or it does what it's supposed to do. For example, if we have our computer system infected with a virus or some malicious software, then your software that you normally use, if it's compromised, may do some unexpected things on your computer. So we'd like to maintain the integrity of the system, the software, the hardware is not compromised, so it doesn't perform in an unauthorized manner. How do we ensure that a file is not modified without us noticing? One example, an email. I send an email to you. How are you sure that the email that you receive is exactly the same as the email I sent? We know we send it across the internet. How can we check at the receiver that the data that I sent you has not been modified? Any ideas? You may have heard of, you do it in hard copies, where you can sign the document. Okay, we can use what's called a digital signature. There are techniques using cryptography that allow you, before you send an email, you attach a digital signature to that email, send it to the recipient, and the recipient can verify if the message received is being modified or not. So the digital signature is one technique. And later topics for ensuring the data is not modified along the way, not modified without authorization, and some other techniques. Availability. We have a computer system, databases, a network, servers, and the normal users access that computer system. Availability is making sure that they can access it as intended. And a simple example of an attack on availability, and you would have heard of the term, is a DOS or a denial of service attack. A denial of service attack is when some malicious user really overloads that server, network or resource such that the normal users can't access it. So that's an attack on the availability of our computer system. And over the last few weeks, if you follow some technology news, you'll see some of the groups like Anonymous do denial of service attacks on gaming systems like the PlayStation or Xbox network. They try and overload the servers so that the normal users cannot access them in the intended manner. So in one of our topics, we'll look at denial of service attacks, how they work, and some options for trying to protect against denial of service attacks. So be aware of the three key security objectives: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now some people add others on. So another top ones, authenticity. Checking that the data that you receive is authentic, or the person who sent it to you is authentic. And a simple example there is that you receive an email from Steve. How are you sure it's from me, not someone pretending to be me? So we need authentication such that the receiver can confirm, yes, this email did come from Steve, it didn't come from a student pretending to be me. So that's one aspect of authentication. And we'll look at techniques for how to authenticate people and data. And accountability is keeping track of things that happen so that we can be sure that events that have taken place cannot be denied, and we can log and detect attacks when they're taking place and take action afterwards to recover. So usually accountability involves keeping a log of what's happened in the past. Usually often using something, encryption techniques. One example is listed here, is called non-repudiation. And non-repudiation is the service of saying, preventing people from denying that something's happened. That is, you across the internet, you send money to someone to pay for a service. What you want to do is to make sure that when they receive the money electronically, they cannot deny that they've received the money. You would like to have some method to be sure that if they receive the money, they later come back and say, I didn't give the money, you didn't pay. So non-repudiation is an example of holding the users accountable for what's taking place, and it's one method of doing that is having some form of digital receipt. And there's some other features that will in accountability. We'll talk in one subject about intrusion detection. We we will not talk in this course any details about legal actions, but with an organisation, if an attack does take place that tries to compromise the confidentiality, integrity, availability of the system, often some actions have to be taken after the fact to recover, and often you take some legal actions to so keeping records of what's happened is useful for that. We're going to focus mainly on how do we provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability in computer systems. We spend 15 weeks on computer security and don't get to cover many details because computer security is hard. It's hard to ensure a computer system is truly secure. There are many different challenges. These just list some of the key challenges that arise when we're trying to secure a computer system. All of them you can read through. Often it may seem simple to secure a computer system, but it's not as hard. It's not as simple as we think. Especially for people new to computing, it may be simple to secure a computer, but there are many different avenues for attack. Some of the security techniques that we use to provide the services are not as we expect, so they're counterintuitive. So that makes it hard for users that have to use these systems to adapt. What else can we say here? When we implement computer security, we usually need to have new networks, new protocols. For example, in the internet, when we access websites, send emails, instant messages, normally our data is not encrypted. There's no forms of security applied. The internet protocol, TCP, HTTP, did not have any encrypting security mechanisms. New protocols have been created like add-ons to add the security features. So with IP, there was IPsec added. With TCP, there was TLS added. With HTTP, HTTPS was the extension. And these new protocols add complexity and may even degrade the performance. So that's challenging to provide the security while also keeping things simple and making them perform. The problem with computer security is the attackers only need to find one flaw in your system to get access. If there's one hole or weakness in your laptop that they can remotely access, then they can compromise that laptop. Whereas to defend, the people developing software, developing the systems, need to try and find all the weaknesses and fix them before they say release the software developed into the system. For example, you're creating a new piece of software. It's a network application. You allow people to communicate with it across the network. You need to make sure it's programmed well such that there are no ways that people can inappropriately use your software across the network and perform an attack. So in theory, you need to find all the bugs that lead to attacks. Whereas if you miss just one of them, maybe the attacker can use that to perform the attack. So it's easier for the attacker than the normal user.